Hello, people. My name is Marcia Cristina, author of the books Ethics in Workplace and Ethical Conduct in Corporate Sustainability. There are people who believe that if business is done by the book, not only law abiding but also respecting the principle of righteousness for everyone, the win-win principle. I win and you win too, meaning a good deal for both parties, for those who buy and for those who sell. The profit will be period. These people believe that good business is when someone comes out on the advantage over the other, a way to make better profits. Do you agree with this theory? Would you rather earn more by selling less products? So we really need to talk. The idea that ethical business harms profitability seems to be the perfect excuse for those who use questionable means, shortcuts, lies, or deceptions to increase the gains of their business. The blind quest to increase profits at any price while ignoring the risk involved in this practice, often kept secrets and which are often denied by the authors even when the evidence arises. After all, it is very important to keep in mind that the risk of backfiring is present whenever one opts for unethical attitude. Do you know why? Because the unethical attitudes denounce the dubious character of those who practice them, and people of dubious character do not deserve the trust of customers, friends, relatives, or anyone. At least they don't keep people's trust for too long. Do you like doing business or even relating to people you don't trust? So, the risk is always present when someone decides to act focusing only on one's own interests, no matter whether or not it is harming others. This attitude makes people lose confidence in their work, their products, service, and even their word. In short, the credibility goes into the trash bin. As credibility and trust are synonymous, it is that situation that says broken trust will hardly be recovered. Do you know the example of the crystal vase that falls and departs into many little pieces? Even if one tries hard to glue the pieces, it will never be the same as before, never perfect like it was. The greatest attraction for those who choose to act without ethics and that becomes irresistible to people that do not care for values and principles is the immediacy of the rewards obtained when self-interest is privileged without thinking about the damage caused to others. It's a real temptation. Clear. One must count on the inexplicable certainty that nobody will ever know how the action was done, how cheating was entered. That's when it picks up. It is very difficult to hide swindling. Do you know why? Because the biggest mistake of those who think they are smarter than others is also think that everyone is silly and can be fooled all the time. There is where the danger lives or where the risk lies. The risk that are huge and that seem to be very well grounded will be discovered by those who could not know or denounce it for some failure in the process. Moreover, The issue of failure of the process that exposes many people is precisely overconfidence. Those who act without ethics and get what they want have a high probability of repeating the strategy. With time and repetition, which always works, the tendency is that the person ends neglecting some detail and leaves the clue. Then comes the day when the house falls. On that day, usually the damage is great, not only financial, but also moral and even emotional. There are even those who ends up in jail, stamping news from policy pages and compromising personal relationships. This is when one asks oneself the fatal question: was it worth it? Those who think that ethics hinder profit certainly do not realize that, in truth, ethics acquires profit that can even be smaller for each deal, but remains constant over time. The person earns less, but always gains. The increase in profit comes with customer satisfaction and the consequent increase in the number of customers. Lower profits repeated more times. Yes, profit increases, but increases fairly, where everyone is pleased. The lack of ethics is a partner of greed, seeks to increase the profitability of a business in the short term without paying attention to the risks involved. One day, which always arrives, in one way or another, the account of undue profitability arrives and needs to be paid, often with interest and monetary correction, which is how one can account for emotional losses and even unfeasibility of maintaining the business. Can you remember any case that fits that narrative? Well, I think on the construction company Odebrecht, which bought politicians in order to increase the company's profits. One of the largest Brazilian construction companies and with great and proven technical competence. It was a source of pride for Brazilians who saw works done by Odebrecht in other countries, such as the Miami subway and several highways on U.S. soil. I suppose you know how Odebrecht company is now. I'm very sorry. But these misconceptions also happens, for example, with restaurants, which choose to buy cheaper ingredients and compromise the quality of the food they serve. They profit at the beginning, then lose customers, then close their doors. It also happens with those who maintain the quality but decrease the portions. But the prices increases. There is the technician, for example, an electrician, who buys low quality material but charges the price of first rate material, or even worse, lies by saying they replaced a piece and charged the price of the piece, but they didn't. Anyway, there are many examples. And how are these people's lives today? Can you tell me? I'm very impressed to see the lack of concern of so many people about the consequences of their actions. There are still people who think they are going to fool everybody all the time. What a nonsense! Companies that focus on immediate profit and use subterfuge to gain advantage over customers, partners, or suppliers, sooner or later This causes wear and tear in these relationships, and of course, no one likes to play them and ends up looking for companies that work honestly. On the other hand, I imagine everyone knows people who work right their whole lives. These may not even have become millionaires, but they certainly have a quieter and more stable life, and their business remain over time. Of course, the consequences, good or bad, vary greatly from one person to another. After all, the factors that influence our quality of life are countless and often one out of our own control. However, the maintenance of ethical conduct neutralizes the risks and guarantees moral integrity, which assures the peace of mind. People who have lost their clean conscience understand the loss of guilty-free sleep. Ethics and profits are not incompatible. There are many honest people who achieve success and wealth honorably without gloating at the cost of others. The only difference is that the path can be slower, but much, much, much safer and more peaceful. Ethics is a personal choice. It is the choices that each of us makes every single day. The path may be longer for those who choose to do the right thing. That's because you have to avoid the shortcuts that can speed up the gains, but can also destroy the plans. Ethics is the most constant way of facing the competition. After all, your competitors are the biggest inspectors of the correction of your business. Did you know? They are always ready to report irregularities that can harm their interests. Companies that act ethically have a more accurate vision of the future. Pay attention in this truth. Even though ethics is the least profitable way in the short term, it is the way to increase the business volume over time. Everyone who is satisfied with a product or a service has a high probability of coming back and recommending the establishment or the professional. Yes or no? Day by day, customers are becoming more demanding and aware of their power. How many cases of boycotts of unethical companies have you all seen? Whether due to the quality of what they offer or even by misguided attitudes in the face of social or environmental issues. In the case of large companies, such as those that have trade shares on the stock markets, those that are evaluated as ethical and responsible are the most valued, precisely because they have less risk of losses. Therefore, they usually offer greater returns to their investor. In this field, it's also very important how companies treat their employees, since companies that maintain misguided labor relationships tend to present a huge liability, in addition to low productivity, which reflects negatively on operational results. Finally, I will quote a comparison between profit and air that I read somewhere, and unfortunately, I do not remember the source. It is impossible for a person to survive without breathing, as it is impossible for a company to survive without profits. But no one lives just to breath. Breathing is simply an essential need for survival. Increasing the amount of air that is breathed does not necessarily imply in obtaining better health. So is profit. No company acts just to make a profit. Profit is one of the factors necessary for the company's survival. Did you get? That's it. Okay, my friends, that's all for today. I really hope you liked this video. So, if you do like, please tell me and also share and subscribe this channel. Bye bye, people.